Welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast, where our mission is to encourage, equip, and empower every woman on her faith journey with Jesus Christ through testimonies and conversations with others. Today, we are honored to hear from wife, mother of six, and the 2025 Lund Leadership Award recipient who is madly in love with her Savior, Rachelle Rawson, as she has a conversation with our podcast host, Mykelti Bloom. In this episode, Rachelle shares her reaction to being surprised with the Lund Leadership Award at the BTG Leadership Conference this past February. The two discuss what it means to be an exceptional leader, and Rachelle shares characteristics of a leader operating under God's ultimate leadership. Rachelle has an incredible testimony of navigating difficult life circumstances, but how she always saw God show up in amazing ways. She loves to share her Jesus stories, and we're excited to hear some of them today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. This is just a real treat for me. And so welcome, Rachelle, to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
This was a really exciting text that I got from Angie. She shared like, hey, Rachelle, she just won the Lund Leadership Award, which is just a huge honor. And it was honestly so fun for me to be able to be on stage and just to see your face and all of that as I was emceeing. But she had messaged saying like, let's have her come on the podcast. She has an incredible story. And I love an incredible story. I love a good testimony. And I just love to hear truly what is going on in the lives of women and what they're doing and how they are being a light into the world for Jesus. And so I'm so excited to have you on today and just to see where the conversation takes us. But why don't you introduce yourself to everybody listening and just share a little bit about you before we jump in?
Well, my name is Rachelle Lynn Lillian Rawson. My friends call me Shelly with an I because it's much cooler to be able to dot them with hearts and peace signs and flowers and crosses. I am a daughter of the King of Kings. I am a wife to an awesome man they call Brad the Dad. And I gave him a litter of children. We have 6 children. So I'm also a mama, which is my other favorite thing to be and do. We have ranging from 23 to 19, 17, 7, 5, and almost 3. So 23 and almost 3. And I'm a co-founder of Agape Community Services and now executive director. But mostly I'm a part of Team Jesus, which is my favorite thing to be a part of.
Oh, I love that. I love it. So how I was introduced to you, I kind of just shared a little bit about that for people, but every year at the Bridging the Gap Leadership Conference, for those of you who don't know, we have something called the Lund Leadership Award. And this award, I think this is our 3rd year doing it. And it is basically honoring an exemplary leader. And she has the opportunity to be nominated by friends, and it's completely anonymous. And so we have a group and a committee that picks a leader and a recipient from this. And then we get to surprise this person at the leadership conference. And it is honestly one of my favorite parts of the whole experience, just to see people that are being loved on and cheered on by so many other women leaders around them. And you were this year's recipient. And I just would love to hear how that whole experience was for you. Like, were you just completely shocked? And when did you realize, oh my goodness, this is me. They're talking about me. So just walk me through that experience.
Well, funny to get there, my friend asked me to come and she's teaching to be a prayer partner for her. And so of course I was like, yes. And then another one of the ladies that were going was like, hey, do you want to invite someone else? I'm like, I'm going to support my other friend. I don't know if I can invite anyone. But anyways, when you guys played the video, I said to Crystal sitting next to me, I said, that voice was like Starla. Like my friend Starla, like I recognize that voice. And she's like, I don't know. And then it sounded like some of my other friends. And then all of a sudden I realized. And no, it was certainly fun to be able to be a part of that. There's nothing better than a bunch of women. But the thing that I actually got out of that is, wow, find your tribe, right? and be that tribe. Because in the whole video, I just thought, oh my gosh, so much love, and I'm not like a person that's like, oh, I need an award, or like that even feels uncomfortable. But in the receiving end of that, it was just so beautiful. All of these women coming together and yeah, honor. I mean, yes, and the key theme of the whole thing was Jesus too, which of course made my heart so happy. But yeah, find your tribe, I would say, and be that tribe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can echo that. I feel like my favorite part of the whole experience is just the fact that it's women cheering on women, because
Yeah.
we live at a time where there's so much comparison, there's so much competition between women, especially when you get into leadership roles where it's, like, oh, she has this and I want this. And so to take an opportunity and completely take away all of that comparison. And we are honestly just loving on and highlighting women for being incredible. It just makes my heart so happy. And I just would love to hear you say like more too about like why do you feel it's so important that we are banding together as women to cheer each other on?
Oh man, because well, speaking of leadership, leadership can be lonely, right?
Mm,
Two, we live in the world and, spiritual warfare and, people believe lies from the enemy. Like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, or am I even called? I mean, we just hear all of these things. And it's just not that like we live for affirmations of men, because we don't. We live for an audience of one. But, there are all those times of sorrow or sadness or uncertainty. And it's just so great to be able to have your tribe or other women to celebrate with,
yeah.
to celebrate with, to cry with, to cheer on, and I believe I'm a huge believer that we are better together. And so, yeah.
Oh, I love that. What do you think makes an exemplary leader? Like somebody who just goes above and beyond in what they're doing, or just what does that heart look like?
I'm so glad that you asked. This rolls around in my head a lot, or even in my heart. And one of the things for me for leadership is every great leader must also be a great follower.
Mm,
So I have been a sponge of good and bad leadership over the years. And when I've been in helping positions or places where the top leader ends up being unhealthy and hurts the staff and then hurts the people that you're helping underneath. And instead of, placing judgment, I'm just like, wow, that is not the kind of leader I want to be. So, and I've also just had great people pour into me. So I've had to be a really great follower of other leadership, knowing which paths to follow and what not to. And then, of course, my heart is servant leadership. And an example of servant leadership to me is my husband. He is constantly serving his family. He makes us breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I prayed for a husband that could cook because the Lord knew I was not a great housewife. And he just like literally lives to support his family. And servant leadership too. I tell this story. I'll give you a little story. So I've been to federal prison, and when I got out of federal prison, one of my first jobs was working at the church, and I was doing like janitorial work, and I was cleaning the toilets, and I would ride a bicycle. And this is a real story. I'd ride a bicycle. It sounds like one of those old lady stories. 12 miles a day uphill. There was no snow. Uphill, and I would clean the toilets for they would for 4 hours for me to clean the toilets. And I would be so happy to do that. And this is a part where you might say I'm a little crazy, but I would pray over the toilets and I would say, Lord, the next person that sit here, feel your love. And there's so much there's the reason I tell you that is there's purpose in everything that we do. One, and I was so happy. I wasn't, saying, oh, I'm cleaning toilets. But when you're faithful with a little, the Lord will give you much. And now I'm trusted with
amen.
millions. And as a leader, I'm not gonna be afraid to like go get down and dirty and clean some of those toilets still. Like I'm not above that. Like if whatever it is, like you practice willingness. And the other characteristics I think that's really important is to see people like Jesus sees us. like to make sure that people are seen. So when, I walk into a room, I'm always trying to look for that person that, I don't know, I just maybe needs a little extra love, or at least I pray about it or think about it, like just to like see people. And then don't ever get so big that you stop answering people. You stop picking and choosing, like, oh, I don't need to reply to them, or they're not that important,
Mm,
or I don't need something from them, or whatever that looks like, because everybody matters. Even a quick reply is important. And then, and here's the deal is Jesus was always busy, but he made time because
yep.
people are what mattered. And then I think the other last few things I have is that I was thinking about is communication is really important as a leader. It's important to be able to have those tough conversations, to reject passivity, to be able to confront and level appropriately, because I think that sometimes as Christians we get too caught up in the love that we forget that truth is love. And
Mm,
I personally like to surround myself with people that are going to tell me about myself, so that way I can grow and I can say, hey, I'll take a look at it, and like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, like I welcome that constructive feedback or that criticism so that I can grow. And it's also being that type of leader that people can feel comfortable saying, hey, Shelley, I think you need to take a look at that, like the other day when you said this, or whatever it looks like, so that they can feel safe, that I'm not going to flip the script or blame them or make a big thing. So I think communication is really important. And then last and finally is just make sure you stay connected to our leader,
yeah.
the creator. I always say, who's my boss? God, the creator of the universe. That's who I work for. And live for an audience of one, right? Whatever we do, eat, drink, whatever it is, do it as we're doing it from the Lord, and know that he sees me, he sees my heart, and that's all that matters.
This episode is sponsored by Agape Community Services. At Agape Community Services, they believe that when a man is restored, a family is restored. Their Christ-centered recovery program helps men break free from addiction, rebuild their lives, and return home as fathers, leaders, and servants of God. Help to end the cycles of incarceration and absenteeism, one transformed life at a time. Learn more at agapesiouxland.com. That's agape, SIOUX, land.com, or text Agape Siouxland to 50155 to give today. Join them in restoring the gospel to the center of families. Again, that's agapesiouxland.com.
So
That is so good. That's so good. So many really good points to think about for leaders is am I falling under these categories? How is my communication? How is my servant heart? And overall, just holding this heart of humility. I feel like humility is
amen.
such an important piece for leadership. And if I see a leader without humility, I run really far the other way. It's like I don't even want to touch that.
It's literally my favorite thing to do. And other thing too is good leaders. Something that I learned is good leaders always take credit for the mistakes
Mhm.
of your staff, like, oh, I need to train you better, or whatever that looks like. I should have looked at that better. Take credit for the mistakes, and then for the wins, you don't take credit. You want to build your team up. One of my favorite things to do, I did this like teen dating violence initiative where I was able to go into all the schools and like, I don't know, the Lord did some really cool things. But the point is I wanted to get leaders in the schools and help build them up. And there was like a lot of media on it and a lot of news stuff. And was it the kids' idea? No, it was my idea, right? And was it all? But in the whole thing, I was like, oh, it's Rosario or whoever, and then they were able to be like elevated and feel what that feels like to
Yeah.
go to like that next step. So. Give everybody else credit, especially the Lord, and then take the credit and practice humility for the mistakes.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm done rambling.
No, that's so
I
good.
know
It's
I
so,
guess
so
I'm gonna get a
good.
little passionate about it because they're all just really important things. But I think it feels better to even practice humility. And I've had a fall before where I got prideful, and pride comes before the fall. So now, like, I'm not trying to do any of that.
Yeah. But the Lord is so patient with us sometimes and so gently reminds us, like, hey, who's actually the one orchestrating things behind the scenes here, who actually gave you those blessings, who actually put you that in position. And he's just so gracious and humbling to us when we need it sometimes. So I always appreciate that. What would you say, just one more question on this topic, for a woman who's out there and just doesn't feel like she is leadership worthy and just really struggles with like, oh, I go to these leadership conferences, but I'm actually not in the workforce, but I'm not also in ministry role. Like, I don't know where I am, what I'm doing. Am I even a leader? What would you say to encourage them?
Do not believe the lies of the enemy. He's a thief. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And I don't know if you're a mother or you are a wife or you're just a really good sister, but I think that we're all called to leadership. And even I look at my children, I'm at the end of this cancer journey, and we would go to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, actually. And she was 3 at the time. She had these little cards, these little like Bible cards, and we go around and I'd say happy day, and then all of a sudden she started going up to people with me and saying happy day, and then she would give them a card, and then we would say, how can we pray for you? And the reason I tell you that is there's always somebody watching, and no matter in what position or where you're at, and you can, the Lord has a purpose for you, and if He's a purpose for you, He's going to use you in anything you do. Rather, you're the best leader at cleaning those toilets. And so yes, do not listen to the enemy's lies. Like, the Lord has plans and a purpose for you, and that might look different in every single scenario.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder. Someone's always watching. How can you be a leader for them, the people that are watching? Oh, that's so good. Well, you've already given us little snippets of your story throughout this. So I just want to jump into it and have you just share who you are. What has your journey been? And we'll go from there.
Okay, so, I grew up your average trauma kid, probably went through every kind of trauma that you can think of. My biological mom did not love the Lord. I was not introduced to the Lord through my family. But the cool thing about it is somehow He makes His way into your life. Like he finds His way. And I recently just found all these poems that I wrote as a little girl, and they were all about God and Jesus. And I know when I found this journal that I had in 6th grade, and it said, this is my friends list. And at the top, I had God/Jesus. And I used to lie on Wednesdays to my mom and say I was going somewhere else and sneak off and go to a Lutheran church to confirmation classes. Criminal in the making already, but still love the Lord. And
run into church, hide it and lie about going to church.
And the point is, He, made His way into my life. I went to 10 different schools from kindergarten to 4th grade. I ended up getting taken from my mom when I was 14 and put into foster care. I lived in 6 different foster homes. I believed a lot of lies from the enemy. I believed that love had to be earned. And if I wasn't good enough, I would just be like, I was thrown to the side. And I also believed that I needed to, as I started to get older, that I needed to be in a relationship with someone, and being in any relationship was better than no relationship. Because if somebody didn't have me, it meant that I was like a reject, a throwaway. And so I ended up there were some teachers in the high school that became foster parents so I could live with them. And then they legally adopted me at 21. And the judge said, what does a 21-year-old do on her adoption day? And I said, have a margarita. And so, yeah, I got legally adopted, Yeah, I got legally adopted at 21. I would say, when I got put into foster care, I put Jesus aside. I was never like angry at Him or blamed Him or I just kind of forgot about Him. I was so busy trying to like fit in with the world and manage my trauma that I just kind of put it aside. And so I got married, and I had 3 children. I had Chloe, Julian, and Isaiah. And growing up, I had 2 dreams. I wanted to make a difference in the world, and I wanted to be a mom, a great mom, not like my mom. And I was just going to put the past aside and not, just put a smile on my face and not deal with the trauma, and thought that we could just move on. And that worked for a while. In 2007, I went on a mission trip. I just signed up for this mission trip of 28 people. I didn't know a single person. There were all these Lutherans, these crazy Lutherans. And we went to New Orleans, and I was probably the most annoying person in the van. I was sitting in the middle to the front, just asking all of these questions. And we came back, and one of my friends, I was a hairdresser for a lot of years, and one of my friends invited me to their church, and they were like raising their hands and singing, and I thought, what is this? And then I ended up going to the Christian bookstore one day, and I opened this book, and it was called The Message. And I called my friend Sue, and I said, Sue, I just found the coolest book ever. And she said, well, what is that? And I said, I don't know, The Message. And she said, Shell, that would be the Bible. And so I just took it and I ate it up. Every morning I'd get up at like 4:30. I'd started reading the Bible. I got invited by my friend Starla that you saw in the video, to women's Bible study. And I said yes to Jesus, and I was completely sold out and excited to tell everybody about it. I thought I didn't have to be alone anymore. I was like, oh my gosh, I can have a best friend in the Lord. And I was super on fire. But I still believed a lot of lies from the enemy. I thought that love had to be earned. And although I do have a servant's heart, I started serving for all the wrong reasons. I became a Martha, I would say. And I just kept saying yes, yes, yes. And I kept serving because I wanted God to love me more. I was afraid that he was going to leave me. And I became a foster mom. I had these 5 kids from the homeless shelter. So at one point in my life, I had a 4-month-old, 2 2-year-olds, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Maybe that's the right number. Anyway, I went on a mission trip to Papua New Guinea. I'm telling everyone about the Lord. I come back, and then I started getting prideful. The fall's coming here. Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting prideful, and I can remember saying, Jesus, I love you, or God, I love you so much. If I were tempted in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, I would pass the flying colors. And then I said, we were in church one day, and I said, my pastor was talking about sin, and I said, I think I even sin anymore. I don't lie. Can you just even imagine? I don't lie, I don't cheat, I don't steal. And then I said, Lord, make me need you. Well, let me tell you, the first time I was tempted, I felt so hard and so fast. My husband and I ended up separating. The kids that I had, the foster kids, ended up going back to their mom. And I think that I didn't know how to grieve those children. In my unhealthy mindset, I think if I could just save that family and save, air quote, those children, that it was like maybe saving my own situation all those years ago. And so my husband and I separated. He was not a believer. And all of a sudden, and my identity was also in my kids. I put them first, I would say, even before God, because all I want to do is be a mom. And there was a calm in my life, and I had to look at me. And then the girls from work started saying, hey, do you want to go have drinks after work? And I thought, sure. And before I know it, I was secretly asking for double shots, and I would justify it. And I would say things like, Jesus hung out with sinners, but he wasn't a sinner. And I would just, I started getting like super intoxicated, blackout drunk, and I would still keep trying to like talk about Jesus. And just, it's a thinking error called nullification. It's justifying, blaming, making excuses for the things that we do. And so I was using that thinking error. And then somebody offered me drugs in the bathroom, and that one night, and I did it. And I literally went from partying to homeless in 6 months. Praise God. So I needed a time of sifting. Clearly, we can see that, and I'm so grateful for that time. I I slowly got farther and farther away from the Lord. I can remember there was a time where I lost my vehicle, my career of 12 years, like everything. And it was in the middle of the night, and it was like 2 a.m. And I almost could hear, I mean, I felt like I could hear that God, the Lord say, like, daughter, what is it going to take to bring you back to me? Like, what is it going to take? And I still kept searching for all these ways in the world. And I believed all these lies from the enemy, like, you had your one chance with God and you blew it. You are never, all those Bible study ladies, you would never be welcome in a church again. And one of my favorite Bible verses is it's Psalm 63, 1-3, and it goes like this. It goes, you God, oh my God, I earnestly seek you. I'll thirst for you in a dry, parched land where there is no water. And I have seen you in your sanctuary, and I behold your power and glory. And this is my favorite part, because your love is better than life itself. My lips will glorify you. And I searched the ends of the earth in abusive relationships, unhealthy relationships, drugs, alcohol, everything else. And every time I came back, like empty. Like I had all these like holes that are only meant to be filled with the Lord. And so anyways, I got into some really abusive relationships. Before I know it, I was homeless. I was living in an abandoned warehouse. I was putting I was the needle junkie mom without her kids. And I got into another abusive relationship who was a gang member. And, he didn't do drugs, but he sold them. And I thought, this is my ticket. I'm going to get clean. I'm going to step away from this life. I'm going to, be able to be with my kids and get on my feet and stop doing drugs. Again, the lie from the enemy. Well, I ended up getting pregnant, and the day I found out I was pregnant, I ended up I stopped doing drugs, and that's been 11 and a half years now, because I could stop for something greater for myself, because I didn't yet love myself. I couldn't imagine doing drugs with this little baby. So I ended up getting clean, and then I made a decision to be obedient to God no matter what. The first time I made it, I said yes to Jesus, and I was absolutely 100% saved, but I would say I didn't have deep roots. And I still, even though I read his word, I didn't know his word.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that his word was absolute truth. Like, not even like realizing I was rejecting it, but you know how like the devil says, did God really say?
Yeah.
And twisting it to my own like theology, like, oh, Jesus hung out with sinners, this is fine. And so anyways, I made a decision to be obedient to God no matter what. When I was in my addiction, I shoplifted quite a bit. And when you stop doing life and you start doing it again, you have a lot of like wets to overcome. And one of them was toilet paper. I didn't have any toilet paper, and I wasn't going to go shoplift it. And I said, God, can you just hook me up with some toilet paper? And I know, right?
That was all of us in 2020 when there was the toilet paper shortage. Lord, we just need toilet paper.
Foreshadowing, right? Dun, dun, dun. So anyway, I went back to my little apartment that I got on housing, and what was outside my door? A bunch of toilet paper.
Oh my goodness.
No, God's so cool. So, and then, like I needed to get my beauty license back. Long story short, I said, God, can you just throw some money on my lap? And my friend from Washington, Melissa, called and said, hey, I just want to tell you that there's a money order for you at Walmart. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, I don't know. I felt like the Lord said I was supposed to give you some money. And I go there, and do you know how much it was for? The exact amount for my beauty license, right? So I felt like that was him just showing me like, I never left you, you left me. Like I was in it with you the whole time. And so he just did all these things to show me he was in it with me. And then, long story short, I was pregnant. I stepped away from that life, but my abuser kept trying to like come back in. This is Jesus' story. Do you want to hear a Jesus story?
Always.
Sorry. Okay. So I had stepped away from that life. I had gotten a job at a hair salon, and my abuser, who stole my vehicle, I was embarrassed. I got a ride home to my apartment, And I just started like screaming out to the Lord, like repenting, like, God, I am, and the feds, they're real. It's a real thing. They started to say, hey, we know what he was doing. And if you don't cooperate, you're going to go to federal prison, and we're going to take your baby and all of the things. And so, I went back to my apartment, and I'm screaming at the Lord. I'm like, God, so sorry that you entrusted me with these 3 kids and I messed up. Like, I'm just like repenting and pouring out the desire in my heart. I'm like, all I want to do is work for you. And all I want to do is be a mom and just have this baby and have a godly husband. And then it was like that snot-nosed cry where you're like, I know we've all had it. And I know. And so I said, God, will you just let me know it's going to be okay? Then I go and I sit down at my couch and I look over, and to this day, I don't know where it came from, but there was a note and it said, a love letter from your father. And I look and I look at it, and there were all of these Bible verses typed up. And that one that my eyes went to is, I will give you the desires of your heart. And I thought, what? Here I am repenting and pouring out the desires of my heart. And the Lord gave me that verse. And this is what I know about the Lord, because I know that he is faithful to keep his promises. And if he would do it for Abraham and Sarah, he would do it for me, even if I was 99. And so that was like a moment where I just like literally recognized that nothing in this earth belongs to me. And I laid everything at the foot of the cross.
Did you know single-parent homes are one of the fastest growing demographics in the United States? Most of us know at least one single mom and can see how incredibly difficult this role can be. Bridging the Gap has seen the need and is responding. Join us on June 6th and 7th for our 14th annual Single Moms Retreat at Lake Geneva Christian Center in Alexandria, Minnesota. We anticipate there being over 600 attendees, volunteers, and participants. The mission of this retreat is to show attendees extravagant love, offer hope, and encourage them to dream big dreams. We'll have powerful main sessions with Micah McDonald, McKelty Bloom, worship with Stephanie McDonald, and fun with MCs Brooke Maxwell and Eliana Gazelle. There'll be workshops and lots of included activities such as car care, our boutique, the salon and spa with professional haircuts, a 5K run and 1 mile walk, and after party gifts, and more. This event couldn't be possible without the support of organizations and individuals who donate funds, products, or volunteer. See how you can get involved and register to attend, exhibit, or volunteer at mnbtg.org/retreat. That's mnbtg.org/retreat. We'll see you there.
But let me tell you, after I received that promise, a lot of really bad things happened. I got beat up so bad, I got sent into labor. They took my baby. The state had taken my baby, and they gave her to my first abuser that had molested me as a little girl. And I did get federally indicted for conspiracy. So not only was I fighting to not go to federal prison for 10 years, but most importantly, I was fighting to get my baby out of that house. And I did end up getting my baby out of that house. She did end up getting adopted to somebody in Minnesota, actually, which is a whole nother Jesus story in itself that we probably don't have time for, but it's another episode. But just kidding. But anyway, I ended up going to federal prison. I got sentenced for 4.5 years. And this is the part where you might just kick me off and cut it off here. But even though I was in my grief, I was excited to go to prison because I had a friend that had went to federal prison before me, and she went through this program called RDAP, and it's such a good program. It gives people 1.5 years off their federal prison sentence, and I saw the change in her. And my favorite story in the Bible, one of them, probably all of them are my favorite, but one that I really like is, where there's the man on the mat next to the healing waters, and he's there for like 30 years, and Jesus, like the awesome gangster that he is on a Sunday, he comes and he says, do you want to be healed? Do you want to get well? Depending on the version. The man makes all the excuses, I don't even need to carry me in, all the excuses. And Jesus just bypasses those excuses and says, he gives him an action statement. He says, pick up your mat and walk. And I was ready for that action statement. I recognized there was a problem, and it was with me. And although I had been clean for 1 year, I still kept letting all these dangerous, unhealthy people into my life, and I needed to go get well. And so I went to federal prison, and I went like I was going on a mission trip, but a mission trip for myself to let him heal me. I wanted to get deep roots. I would spend probably 12 hours a day in the word. I would wake up every day excited, and I would say, how bad can this day be? I get to spend it with Jesus. And within the prison context, I call it holy ground moments. There were some pretty awesome Jesus stories that I have, or that he allowed me to have. Do you want to hear a couple?
Always.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there was this girl, her name was Bridget, and she said to me, she goes, I don't like you. She goes, you are too happy. And in my experience, people that are that happy are fake. And I said, it's okay. You don't have to like me. And then I just kept moving on. And one night, some other things had happened, but I'll summarize the story a little. And one night she woke me up in the middle of the night, and my last name was Jervik then. And she said, Jerv, and tears were streaming down her face. And she said, I just keep thinking about that Jesus guy on the cross, alone, beat, spit at. And I think if he would do that for you in a place like this, maybe he would do that for me, and I don't have to be that alone anymore. And anyway, she ended up saying yes to Jesus, and a total new creation. And if I hadn't gone to federal prison, there wouldn't have been so many awesome Jesus stories like that. And then another Jesus story I'll tell you, and it ties back into this girl, is I read the book The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. And so I would do these, I'd pray and fast quite a bit, and pray like circles over the things. And I would like pray something for myself, something with my relationship with Jesus, and then something for someone else. And I kept trying to go to school for Christian counseling, and in that it's hard when you're in prison. Like, you have to get correspondence. It was just a whole thing. And so in my prayer, I said, God, will you have me enrolled in this school, in these classes by this date? I put a date on it. And that morning I woke up and I had all the faith in the world. I said, God, I thank you for my mail that I'm going to receive today. I'm not even going to lie. 4:00 mail time, I got a letter that said, congratulations, you're enrolled in these classes, and this is your first assignment. And I feel like the Lord knows that I have a really big mouth. And so of course I was just going to go and show everybody my prayer journal and show them like this letter and all of the things. And so then I did a prayer fast with her as a new believer, and she had not received a mail in the 3, or heard from anybody in the 3 years that she had been there. And so we prayed, and I put a date on it again, which the first time I had all the faith in the world. The second time it was like a mustard seed of faith, because God doesn't always do things the same way. And, it's not like he's like a genie in a bottle. Like, it just doesn't always happen that way. And I had mustard seed of faith. So we put a date on it for her to, receive mail and have money on her books. And that morning I was like, Lord, please, 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 I know you can do it. Like, you did it for me. Like, please just do it for her, because I want her to be able to have big faith too. And wouldn't you know it? At 4:00 mail time, she got a letter from her son and $60 on her books from her dad. Don't we have a God that is just so cool and present?
Yeah, honestly, it's just those little stories and those little testimonies that make you believe again. If you're someone, those dry bones come alive. It's just like those stories that just really make you remember, like, look at what God does. And it isn't just, he doesn't just do these things for these top ministers or these big, the famous
Nobody.
Yes, he's doing it for just all these people that are just living their life, going through it, and he sees all the details, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
The reason that I love to tell those stories is because in the Bible, right, God parted the Red Sea. He parted the Jordan River. He did all these like super cool in your face things. And then Moses went up to get the 10 commandments, and 40 days later he came down and they were all like making false idols. And I remember being like judgy and thinking, if God was in my face and parted the Red Sea, I wouldn't forget. But then I feel like the Lord spoke to me and said, we forget all the time. He does things for us. He parts the Red Sea for us all the time. And so that is, and it says, so that is why I tell the stories, because I don't want to forget, so that we can keep telling them. So when other things happen or it gets hard, I'm like, oh, wait, but God did this for me, and he is there and he is present. Or when he seems far or my feelings lie to me, I know that he's there. And if you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, I haven't had stories like that. Like my petition to you would be to, one, know his will, like get into his word, to talk to him more, ask him, say, God, give me Samuel's ear to hear. Like I prayed that for a really long time. Lord, give me Samuel's ear to hear you. Like, and let me know your ways, and just like have that intimacy with him. And why does he do things but to get glory, right? And it's not, that's why I'm like, they're not my story, they're Jesus stories, and for his people and for him. And he does do things in your life all the time. We just have to be aware of his presence. And that it's there, there is a God, and it's not us. For me, that was,
Yeah. No, absolutely. I thank you for sharing all of that and just sharing your story and sharing your journey, because I truly hope that it brings encouragement and light for people who are listening today that might be in that place that just feel like, I don't know why God would show up for me. I don't know why. And what, maybe I see all these miracles happening for other people, but I don't see it for myself. And just to provide that encouragement that he does show up in every single one of our lives. And it is just like you said, it's that pursuit, and it's seeking his presence, and just getting on your knees sometimes and saying, God, you are all I have right now. And and it's just seeking you. So I just thank you for sharing all of that and sharing your story. And I agree. I know there's so much more that we could dive into, and feel like it would be wonderful to do a part 2 and have you come on and share, because you have so much that you're doing right now with your ministry, with speaking into the lives of other people, that I would love to touch on. Kind of okay, you get out of federal prison, now what? So we'll have to do the part 2 on a different day, because I think that would just be so encouraging. But as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you just want to say, just something on your heart, little bits of encouragement or something to the people listening?
Yeah, I would say just remember that life is hard and God is good. Like I lost a daughter. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through, is losing a child. I mean, there was a lot of really bad things happen, but in everything, I just kept trusting the Lord. And I even remember after I lost my daughter, and I'm not kidding you, I prayed and pleaded and screamed and prayed, like, please, Lord, no. I mean, read all of these scriptures on faith and all the things, and he still said no. Sometimes he still says no, but he's still so good. And he, his ways are higher than our ways. They're not always what we think it should look like. So I think even in all of that, as you hear these Jesus stories and you hear my story, is to just keep trusting him that he is in it with you. We have a God, Elroy, right? Like that sees us, hears us, and is in it with you in all that you do. He's very present and loving. And, my heart overflows with his joy so much. And my heart today is hoping that your heart will overflow too, because you're just so connected to him. Thank you for having me on. You are beautiful. Go Team Jesus.
Go Team Jesus. Oh, well, thank you for coming on. It was honestly such a blessing to have you. And I am just so excited to see what you continue to go on to do.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Bridging the Gap podcast. We were honored to hear a powerful testimony from Rachelle Rawson on God's ultimate leadership. Be sure to watch for part 2 with Rachelle, an upcoming episode where we'll hear more about her incredible ministry and the community of Agape Community Services, which is also today's episode sponsor. Learn more about Agape Community Services at agapesiouxland.com. That's agapesiouxland.com. You can learn more about Bridging the Gap at mnbtg.org and by following MNBTG on social media. We also want to invite you to take a moment to rate and review this podcast to help others find this resource as well. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to being with you next time on the Bridging the Gap podcast.